Morning folks, today's lesson is going to be on monitoring your development programme. The learning intention for today is that we're learning about monitoring our training programme, and you'll know you've been successful if by the end of this lesson you can explain why monitoring performance is important, you can identify different methods you can use to monitor performance, and you can monitor your own performance of your training programme. So why is it important to monitor your development as you go through your personal development plan? Well, first, it allows us to see progress, allows us to see if we are improving as we go on. If we see we're improving, then this will help keep us motivated and inspire us to keep training, keep working, because we can see real results happen. It also warns us if training is not being effective. If we're not seeing progress, then we need to make adaptations to our training to make it more effective. There'll be nothing worse than spending 8 weeks in a training programme only to find out that no progress has been made. So if we monitor it as we go along, we avoid that possibility happening. So how do we monitor our training and development? Well, there are many ways to monitor our training and development, but 3 ways that we'll talk about in this lesson are through feedback, through using a training diary, and through testing. So the first method of monitoring our development we're going to talk about is feedback. Feedback is information you receive that evaluates a performance or a training session. So it can come from an external source. So external feedback is when it comes from someone else, like a coach, a personal trainer, or a fitness monitor even. So an electronic device like a Fitbit that measures your heart rate is giving you feedback on your training, or if a coach tells you how well you're doing, or if you've done enough reps, or that you maybe need to do more reps for your training to be effective. That's external feedback because it's coming from out with your body. You also get internal feedback, so that's feedback that's coming from within you, so either your thoughts, emotions, or your senses. So were you bored in your training? Were you happy with your training? Were your muscles hurting by the end of your training? Were you sweating? Was your heart rate raised? These are all things we can think about from within that inform us how our training is going. Is it hard enough? Is it exciting enough? And it can inform whether we need to make changes or not. So 2 types of feedback, external and internal. So once we've received this feedback, either from a coach or someone who's helping us, or from a fitness monitor, or whether it's just what we've thought about our own training or how we felt about our training at the end, it's important that we then use that feedback. So one way we can use it is to record it in a training diary. So for every training session you do, you maybe write some comments, or a coach writes some comments about how your training went. Were you happy with it? Were you bored? And by doing that, it can then inform your next training session to make it more effective. So that brings us on to our next thing we do. We adjust our training based on the feedback received. So if you're thinking, God, that was a boring training session, so dull, then you need to change something, because if you keep on doing a dull session, you're not going to progress. You need to change something to make it more interesting. Likewise, if your muscles weren't burning at the end of the session, you need to change something because you're not overloading them anymore. You need to adjust it based on the feedback you're getting. So we can change the frequency, the interval, the intensity, the time, or the type based on the feedback. And this feedback allows you to continuously adapt your training to ensure it's as effective as possible. So we need to listen to all the feedback we can get, what your body's telling you, what your brain's telling you, and what other people are telling you. So the third method of monitoring our development programme that we're going to talk about today is testing. We can use tests to see if we're progressing or not, and we'll test using the same methods of gathering data that we did at the start of the process. So we'll use a wall sit, the plank test, and a 2-minute press up test. We do this because it will provide a true picture of our progress towards the goals that we've set for ourselves. If we are progressing, then this is going to motivate us to continue by demonstrating progress. We are getting better, we're getting what we want, and that's going to inspire us to keep on training. If we're not making progress, then it's going to alert us to make adjustments so that it becomes more effective, so it can serve as a warning. So for the best effect, we can combine testing with feedback, and this allows us to adjust our training program effectively. Testing can tell you whether you're on track or not, but it can't necessarily tell you why. The feedback, both internal and external, can help us understand why the training is or is not being effective. So if you use both together, you can see whether you're making progress and you can make the necessary adjustments so that you continue or start to make better progress. So now we're going to look at monitoring your personal training program. You've all been monitoring your own training program using the very simple training diary that you've been filling out with the times of each exercise after each circuit. At the end of each circuit, I asked you to think about how tired your muscles were. Were you able to complete that last set, or were your muscles too tired, or did they still have a lot of energy? So you were using internal feedback to inform your timings for the next session and recording that in your training program. This was to ensure that you were working at the right level to provide overload, to ensure that you were improving your muscular endurance. We're now going to introduce the testing phase of the monitoring. So you're going to retest your muscular endurance using the 3 tests we did at the start. So the wall sit, the plank test, and the 2-minute press up test. Once you've redid these, you'll then be able to compare your scores to your initial score and your target score, and you'll be able to see from that whether you're improving or not and whether you're going to achieve your target. If you are improving and you think you're going to achieve your target, then brilliant. Keep on going, keep on doing what you're doing, and keep on listening to that internal feedback, both your emotions and how your muscles are feeling, to keep making those adjustments. If you're not, then what changes are you going to make it effective and so that you reach those goals? Think about the FIT principles. Which of those can you change? You're already adapting the times based on your feedback, so which other of those principles can you change? Is it going to be the type of exercise you're doing? Could one be more effective and using a more similar group of muscles? Or could it be the frequency? Is 2 times a week enough? If you already have pretty good muscular endurance, 2 times may not be enough, and frequency might be something we need to consider. So retest and compare your scores and see whether you need to make changes or not to ensure that you're being effective and improving your performance. So we've reached the end of today's lesson. We've seen that monitoring your development is crucial to effective training. So now it's up to you. I want you to answer the questions on monitoring your development on the task sheet, just so that we can see that you understand why monitoring is important and the methods we can use to monitor our development. I then ask you to retest your muscular endurance using the 3 tests and compare your scores to those that you got at the start of the development program. Finally, you're going to make any adjustments necessary to ensure you meet your targets and record those adjustments on the task sheet. This whole process is to help you understand all the different elements that go into improving performance from start to finish. And by doing that, not only are you going to become more physically able, more physically fit, but you're also going to have those skills to develop any type of fitness, any type of skill, any factor that you choose, because we always follow that same process.